Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel and to a brand new episode of Writing Wednesdays, where we have a brand new essay question. So let's get started. Some countries have introduced laws to limit the working hours that an employer can ask from an employee. Why are these laws introduced? Is this a positive or a negative trend? So right away, this is a two-part question because of course you have two questions. And then, as always, the first thing I like to do is to get my main ideas and my supporting ideas as well. Now, with a two-part question, it's actually a little bit more straightforward. Let me just move the mic. Right, so it's a little bit more straightforward, as I was saying, unlike the other essay types. Like for main idea one, all you have to do is just respond to this first question: why have such laws been introduced? Obviously, to protect the labor force, right? Earlier, the idea of a minimum wage and, weekly working hours wasn't even a thing. Heck, even children used to work in factories and farms. But slowly these laws, were made. So that's obviously for the benefit of people. This is to protect the labor force. So ensuring working hours or ensuring or putting limits, right? And enforcing, not just putting and enforcing both, having the law and actually enforcing the law. Those can often be two very different things. It's not enough to just have the law, it has to be enforced. So putting and enforcing laws to protect the exploitation of labor, or limit how many hours an employer can work, is essential. Or you can say, wait, why did I use the word putting? That doesn't make sense here. Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even know where I'm going. We can say putting them into action, putting them into force. Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to write, and then I came up with enforcing and I forgot about putting. That was so weird. Anyway, maybe we can just say and enforcing. Work is essential. Allows laws related to working hours. Yeah, because my first sentence didn't really answer the question, why are these laws introduced? That's why I deleted it. Creating and enforcing laws related to working hours serves to protect the labor force. Labor force is anybody that works, anybody that has a job is part of the labor force. Yet again, I'm just going to change the... There we go. Okay. Great. There we go. Why are these laws introduced? That's because, to protect people. Is this a positive or negative trend? I think it's a good thing. So yeah, this, let's say such laws are necessary for the greater benefit of all of society, right? Let's say if there were no limits to working hours, let's say if you could hire someone to work for 12 hours a day, that doesn't necessarily mean there will be greater output. In fact, it's less efficient because, 12 hours, right? What kind of person can work 12 hours with just one lunch break? Hardly anyone out there. So it's good for businesses too. They just might not realize it at first because you're forced to be efficient. You're forced to, cut the flab, so to speak. That's a very casual thing to say. Of course, you wouldn't write that in your essay. Okay, so it protects labor force, exploitation, work-life balance. Wait a second. Why are these laws introduced? History of exploitation. Right? And of course, people protested. There were, revolutions, strikes, protests, etc. Hard-won rights, and just generally improving people's quality of life. Why are these laws introduced? Because, of course, previously, even as little as 100 years ago, the conditions of anybody with a job were, I mean, they were, ripe for exploitation. They could underpay you, they could overwork you. So, yeah. Um, and also, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, the government has to care about its citizens, so it has to make laws that, improve the lives. So, government's responsibility is to look out for citizens' welfare, right? I think that could actually be, yeah, no, this is fine. The order is fine. They're necessary. Why? To ensure a good work-life balance, obviously. Avoid burnout and exploitation, because a lot of people, like they might like be very excited and, oh great, I'm in some industries, like finance, banking, law, of course, and of course even doctors, the work hours are crazy. And people used to not complain, but nowadays we all know that burnout is real and it can lead to issues like anxiety, depression, which can lead to other issues. So if you don't like, do something to fix that or even prevent that, then that would be pretty bad, right? So yeah, mental health, this is also related to mental health, but even physical health actually, because it's not good to, constantly, even for your physical health, it's important. If you're sitting in an office all the day, that's awful, that's bad. Or even if you're doing actual hard labor on a construction site, etc., there's physical wear and tear on your body. So yeah, these are my reasons. There we go, done. So we're just gonna write our introduction. As recently as 100 years ago, labor force was underpaid and overworked. But with the passage of time, many hard-won rights have been awarded to people, and the general condition of the working class has massively improved due to better laws. There we go. And I have to answer these questions. So, why have these laws been introduced? This has changed since I think this is a good enough, it's 47 words, it's a good enough introduction. I also wanted to say it's largely positive and has had a positive impact on society. There we go, nicely. Oh, wow, I didn't realize it, but this is just one sentence. That's crazy, a 55-word sentence. But I see it as completely normal. As recently as 100 years ago, the labor force was underpaid and overworked. With the passage of time, this has changed. Or I can just say with the passage of time. But no, this is fine. This has changed since many hard-won rights have been awarded to people. And the general condition of the working class has massively improved due to better laws and this has had a positive impact on society. I see nothing wrong with this. I mean, so what if it's just one sentence? That's how I roll. Okay, and then the first paragraph. Right, history of exploitation, strikes and protests. There we go. Okay. Throughout history, throughout most of human history, the working class has been not just exploited and abused, and even abused by the landowning or capitalist class. It is only fairly recently, it's only within the past few decades, because if you remember, I think up until the 50s or there was the war before that, So, I mean, it wasn't common. For example, women were not even allowed to go to university 1910, 1920, 30. The war changed a couple of things, of course, but they were not allowed to go to university. They were not allowed to have a job. They were not allowed to have, bank accounts in their name. In the US, so African Americans were not allowed to have jobs, certain jobs in certain places. Like they were not treated equally, right? So I mean, that's actually it's crazy when you think about it. It was just like the 1950s or 60s, not too long ago. I mean, when you consider, it wasn't like, oh, 500, 600 years ago. It was very common, very recent. So, yeah, throughout most of human history, right? That's why I said throughout most of human history, the working class has been exploited and even abused by the landowning or capitalist classes. Only within the past few decades that this has changed. This change was largely brought on not, by the largesse of the powers that be, but by people who fought hard and revolted against the system to ensure that they receive the rights that they are owed and are treated fairly. Right? I'm very passionate about this. A largesse. You might think, that's a funny looking word. So large, it's a little bit old fashioned. You might say nowadays people might just use a word like kindness. The kindness, it means the same thing. Largesse is just a little bit old fashioned. When I was growing up, I read a lot of books, but a lot of them were like super old books, and I loved old literature. So my vocabulary, it kind of influenced my vocabulary. So I might use words like tutelage, largesse, stuff like that. I just find them so interesting. Anyway, so yeah, largesse, kindness, in a way, not necessarily kindness, but it refers to a generosity, like like you're generous, you're doing something good for someone. It's so usually we refer to it in terms of giving someone benefits. It could even be like money, but yeah, just generally, even largesse, or maybe you can use a simpler word if you want. Again, nothing wrong with that. You can, as long as you get your message across. So this has changed. This change, you see how I'm transitioning. This has changed. Oh, okay. And then I use a noun. This change, this whole change. So this is a reference phrase. So this change was largely brought on not by the kindness. You can use kindness if you want to. Perfectly okay. Nothing wrong with that at all. Use simple words. You don't need anything fancy. Not at all. Trust me, the message has to be clear. That's the most important thing. This change was largely brought on not by the kindness of the powers that be, but by the people, by normal, common people who fought hard and revolted against the system to ensure that they receive the rights that they're not. This is sounding very socialist. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, of course, most of us live in some kind of socialist republic, socialist federation. I mean, most governments are socialist in nature because, of course, we have to look out for the people. That's essentially what it is. Anyway, that was a whole thing about economics. Besides, the government exists for this very purpose, to look out for the welfare of all of their citizens, not merely the ones with wealth and power, right? And that is 114 already, but I'm not done yet. The government exists for this very purpose, to look out for the welfare of all citizens, not merely the ones with wealth and power. Especially so in the modern nation state, right? Because earlier income taxes were not really that much of a thing. In fact, they were introduced to be temporary during the war, I think. I don't know which war. Where every citizen pays indirect taxes, and most pay income tax, direct taxes. Like, I'm giving you money, you better work for me. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And what was the point? Laws have changed over time to be preferential to workers' interests and well-being. There we go. Oh, that one was already done. Then I have my next paragraph. Take that idea over here. Such laws are necessary for the greater benefit of all of society. Most importantly, limited working hours ensures that people can develop and maintain a healthy, what happened over there? Something happened over there. Maintain a healthy work-life balance, because life is about more. Life is about more than just work, right? Obviously. I mean, we often, especially when we're young, we think, oh, my work is my identity. And then you're like 30, 40, 50, etc. You obviously your, status changes. Maybe you marry, maybe you have kids, maybe you have to take care of your parents, etc. And you realize, life is more than just work, more than just my career. Life is about more than just work. Work is a part of life, not life itself. Not life itself. And then avoid burnout. As a consequence of a good work-life balance, or as a consequence of this balance, people are able to avoid burnout, which people used to, like I said, people used to hide such things and not really talk about that. But now we know, mental health, has been given a lot of importance since the past decade or two. People are more forthcoming. So as a consequence of this balance, people are able to avoid burnout, and, take care of their mental health, which we now know is just as important as one's physical health. Right? And the last thing, speaking of physical health, in terms of physical health, working too long, whether in an office or on a construction site, has been proven to be bad for one's bodily, well, I don't know, that sounds a bit strange, so we'll say physical welfare. So even office workers are at risk. I think the last two, I think I have to pad it out a little bit more. It looks a little bit small to me. I don't know why. Working hours, ensure that people can develop and maintain a healthy work-life balance, because life is about more than just work. This is fine. As a consequence of this balance, people are able to avoid burnout, stress, I think burnout and stress. No. Burnout and take care of the mental health, which we now know is just as important as one's physical health. But I haven't really explained. I get the feeling that I'm not explaining this well enough. I'm not satisfied. As a consequence, people are able to devote enough time to all parts of their life and have enough time for work and play, avoiding burnout and being able to take care of their mental health. There we go. Great. Now that's nice. In terms of physical health as well, working, in fact, working too long, whether in an office where one sits on a chair for hours, or a construction site where one exerts oneself physically, has been proven to be bad for once. I'm using one. People often use he, his, etc. That's also fine. But nowadays we kind of, prefer one is a little bit old-fashioned. It's correct, like 100% correct. It's just a little bit old-fashioned, just a little bit. Most people don't use it anymore, And of course, I mean native speakers. If you go online, if you talk to them in real life, any one is kind of considered, I mean, it's correct, and yet people are not willing to use it. People just say, their instead, or they might use he, she, etc. I mean, at this point, it's just a personal choice. English has evolved so much, so yeah. Hence, such laws have been extremely beneficial, have been highly beneficial for people. There we go. There we go. That's it. That's all I have to do. And of course, finally, yep, good. Right. Okay, then my conclusion. So in conclusion, it is evident that, so why have these laws been introduced? Okay, so it's evident that these laws have been introduced because the laws, any kind of law, it's not just given to you, it's created because of some kind of problem, right? So laws protecting workers came about due to, obviously, small scale revolutions, actually large scale revolutions as well, due to the need to aid the labor force, or the working population, let's say. And these have served to ensure that people are treated well. People are treated well, and let's say can live well, I don't know about living harmoniously. That's kind of beside the point. So people are treated well at the workplace. Yeah, there we go. And then maybe you can have some kind of a suggestion or warning, maybe at the workplace. If such laws did not exist, medieval, I mean, it would be quite bad, right? The conditions of employees across the world would be miserable, and I mean, it's not just people that would be miserable, and this would negatively impact society, naturally. There we go. So there's our whole essay from start to finish, and that's 402 words. So there's paragraph 1, the introduction, then you have paragraph 2, body paragraph 1, paragraph 3, body paragraph 2, and finally you have a conclusion as well. So yeah, that's our essay for today. Don't forget to check out our other videos. We have lots of them, lots and lots of them for speaking and letter writing as well, not just essays. So yeah, and don't forget, before you leave, just click on the like button and share this video with anyone else that you think might find it useful. I'll see you in the next video, or the next writing task 1 video, maybe in a speaking video, maybe in a writing video. All right then, bye-bye.